Welcome to another episode of the Sipping and Tripping podcast, where we connect with amazing people. Today's topic is love, women, and relationships. I am your host, Desmond Black, and the person that's sipping and tripping with me today is a somatic intimacy and relationship practitioner. Through her work, she supports others to move from survival patterns to in relationships into deeper sense of emotional safety, trust, and secure connection. She is none other than Miss Nathalie Gaglione. Did I say that correct?
It's Gaglione. It's Italian, but it's okay.
Ooh, I, I got to brush up on my Italian, especially because I cook Italian food. So Well, how are you doing? And how's your week so far?
Yeah, I'm really good, Desmond. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And my week has been pretty full, actually, but in a good way. There's been
Okay,
lots of conversations like this, actually, which I absolutely love because I love talking about relationships in a more real and honest way, less
right.
from a place of just giving people advice and
Gotcha.
more understanding what happens to human beings when we encounter intimacy. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's been an exciting week.
Yeah, it has. And you and I kept in touch, before today, and conversation's been great. And I think it's safe to say we're both eager to get this conversation started.
Yeah.
Um, but before we really dive into the conversation, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do for a living?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, the title suggests somatic intimacy and relationship practitioner. So, for those who might not be familiar, somatic is actually a therapy modality coming from the Greek word soma, which actually means body mind. So, a lot of people might be familiar with traditional therapy, like psychotherapists. And
Right.
in that form of therapy, we call it more traditional therapy. We see a lot of dealing with our issues through the mind or the brain. So we analyze, we look at patterns from our heads. But soma means body mind, which actually we have a mind in our body, especially our unconscious mind. It lives in the body. So somatic is really looking through these struggles from the body rather from the mind. And I work with people around issues around intimacy, but not intimacy the way that we would usually think about intimacy in physical intimacy between two people. It's a
Right.
lot more to do with actually the intimacy with ourselves. How intimate are we with the parts of ourselves that we keep hidden or that we're uncomfortable with? And then relationships really flow out of that because we're in constant relationship with ourselves. So how do we get into a good relationship with ourselves in order to have good relationships with others, right? So this is kind of the work that I help people do. I bring in not only somatic work but also nervous system work. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of neuroscience in what I do. I use a bit of what's called Gestalt psychology, which is a way of speaking to the parts of ourselves and having conversations with them. And that is known as parts work, which is another modality I incorporate. So I do actually take quite a lot of these methods to create my own unique methods and help people be not only intimately, deeply intimate with themselves, but have really nourishing, intimate relationships with others.
Okay. Okay. I like that. So are you or have you ever been married?
I have never been married, Desmond. No.
Okay. It's something on your radar, or it's not for you?
I actually never felt the pull to be married. So it's never really crossed my radar, to be honest. No.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, it's not marriage is not for everybody. I've had many discussions about marriage and what marriage is in modern society. Because it's definitely not what it used to be. It's not marriage these days is not what it's supposed to be. And yeah, I just got a different outlook on it. A lot of people think that or say that marriage is the end result, right? I just don't feel that way. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but I just don't feel that way. Because, in short, I don't see no difference between a serious committed relationship and a marriage other than paperwork, right? Because a lot of people say, you make that oath before God and it's a covenant and you're saying forever, right? Well, when people in a serious relationship, they also say forever because before marriage, you're supposed to say forever before you get to that stage. Hence the term engagement. And people commit infidelity in marriages, right? So that alone lets you know that it's not what it's supposed to be, So it's different for me.
Yeah.
Now back in the day, I would agree that marriage was the end all be all. It meant more to people, For instance, in the vows, for better or worse. Nowadays, a woman ain't thinking about that man in bad times. They so quick to leave. So it's like, and vice versa, So it's when you look at that, it's like, why did you get married? Right? Because whenever we get into a relationship, it should be with the right intentions. And a lot of people don't go into these marriages with the right intentions. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't even take the time out to get to know the person. They just jump in a relationship because of lust or based on outside appearances and not what's in the inside because they don't know that person. So that's a common mistake that a lot of us make in this world. So yeah, we just need to get back to the roots. We need to get back to getting to know each other, taking our times to, and invest that time and energy and effort into the relationship. And it maybe years from now, the marriage will be what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
My bad. I just went to a whole little tangent on that. But do you have any siblings?
I do actually. I have two half brothers. So my dad, talking about marriage, my dad had three of them. And he had two sons in his first marriage. He had me in his second. He had no children in his third. So I've got two half brothers. They're much older than me. I think there's a 15-year gap between me and my brothers.
Okay.
But they are very protective of me. I feel like really cared for by my brothers. It's like they're always questioning what boyfriend have you got, and they're always doing the checks.
Yeah, I don't have sisters, but if I did, I know I'd be the worst brother. I just know it. Just like I have a daughter, but like I have some time, and like I don't. For me, it's different. I don't get that like, oh, that's my little girl. Like I don't get those vibes yet. Maybe because she'll be 2 next month. Maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not sure. But like with my boys, that bond, that relationship is just like it's just strong. But I know when she get older, I am going to be like the worst father as far as when she choose to want to date, or before that, when she choose to get that perception in her head that she likes boys. Because two of my kids I don't know if they be joking with me or they just being kids, but they be like, oh, I hope she have a couple boyfriends. I'm like, don't ever disrespect me again. Like, just hearing my kids say that, I don't like it. So I already know I'm gonna be the worst kind. And I know every father say that. I have three older well, not three. Yeah, I got three older brothers, but two of them have kids, and they have daughters, and my younger brother have daughters, and they was the same way. They was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be that way," but then when they had daughters, and they got to that point, they wasn't like that. So I don't know if my opinions and my thought patterns would change when it gets to that point. I'm not sure, but going into it now, thinking about it, no. I'm one of those fathers that's like, you ain't dating until you 18, and even when you 18, they got to go through my checklist.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we shall see. Yeah. So your dad, the third marriage, did it dissolve or he's still married?
It dissolved as well. So yeah, I think this might have played a role, witnessing 3 divorces from my parent. Well, my dad really. My mom never remarried. Put me off marriage in the fact that, as you were saying, I really resonated with what you were saying, is why do we get married in the first place? What's the actual motivation and intention there? And when I saw that vows were made and then broken, I'm like, this doesn't hold any value to me. I am in a, long-term, deep, committed relationship, which has so much value and so much depth to it, that I don't see, as you said, bringing a written contract in is going to change that in any way, So that might have had something to do with it. And now, bless him, my dad is, on his own again, and he's in his 80s. So I don't know if he'll remarry.
See, this is the thing, man. I think what it is with marriage is this. when you're in a relationship and you're thinking about marriage and you set that as your goal, you say, we want to get married or let's get married. You have something to look forward to.
Mm.
So it kind of add that extra energy, that extra spice, that extra care, that extra importance to the relationship. But I think once you get married, now you no longer have something to look forward to. And I think that's why a lot of marriages are not successful, because that's where it starts, I think. Because now you don't reach the top, right? It's almost like if you're in a room and you got the ceiling and then you're trying to reach, you can't. And then as you grow with age, whatever, now you get taller, now you can touch it. Once you touch it, it's like, now what am I gonna do? And we get content a lot of times in relationships. And just because we living together and we're married, we're growing together in the physical form, but we're growing differently. Like you might have a different career path than me. Now we're living together, but we're living differently, right? We're growing differently. And if you don't make every day a practice, spice things up or keep each other relevant, then there's a recipe for disaster. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from a serious relationship and a marriage, right? Because again, you have something to look forward to. Once you get married, you don't have that to look forward to. It's just like now you stagnant, you're stuck in the mud. It's like, okay. Now you look at the same person every day. It's like, okay. You know, you got to do things differently. So my hat goes off to anybody that's been in long-term relationships or marriages. My hat goes off to them. You know, if it's a good relationship, that is, you know, a good marriage. But nowadays, that's a tough thing.
Yeah.
What is it? Oh, never mind. It was a couple comments about Trump. We're not getting into all that.
How did he come in?
So, okay, so where are you from and where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a very small island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. It sounds quite exotic. It is actually. I have very fond memories and feelings for my home country. It's called Malta. I don't know if you heard about it. It's a very small country, small island. And I lived there until I was 26. And then I moved to Scotland, which is where I am now. And I've been here now for 16 years. And I love it. Scotland is beautiful. I mean, the landscape here is breathtaking. And I really found a part of me here. And now I'm at a precipice of actually moving on. So I am looking at going back to the Mediterranean. But this time I'm looking at Greece as my option for living.
Now we briefly spoke about that before. So, but why Greece?
So this is something you need to know about me. Like when I moved to Scotland, I never actually been to Scotland. I just decided to move here without even coming here. And it seems to be a pattern I'm repeating now. There is a specific island called Crete, which is part of the Greek islands. And something is calling me there. Now, I've never been there, but there's something. I work a lot with, energy and knowing. I talk to my guides and I just really find the place inside me that my heart is calling me to. And Crete is a lot like Malta, the way it was about 20, 30 years ago, where it was more wholesome and more, less gentrified. And it has beautiful nature and landscape, which really calls to me as well. So, and there's a small community of Maltese people there as well, which I'd love to reconnect with. And that's really what's calling me there. There's nothing, there's no man or job or anything obvious. It's more of a heart and soul calling that's taking me there. So I'm going to try it out.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Like traveling the world is amazing. I'm a big foodie, a chef, and it's definitely on my bucket list to go to different cultures, or not cultures, but countries and stuff like that, just to experience the culture. The food and everything. So I heard Greece is absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to visit there.
Yeah.
Like Italy is high on my list. Like I definitely want to go to Italy. I've never been there. I just want to be able to see them cook out there, the way they speak, because different places you go, like the culture is just different. The way they interact with each other. the love, the joy. So I just want to experience all of that,
Yeah.
because life is bigger than just the state of New Jersey or the United States. So I just want to be able to have as much experience on this earth as I possibly can. Um,
Yeah.
so do you have any kids?
I don't have kids. No, that's another thing that it's funny. I had a memory when I read that question of me being at school. I must have been, I don't know, 10 or 12 years old with all my school friends. And we were all having a discussion, how many kids are we going to have? And everyone said, I'm going to have two, I'm going to have one. I want a girl, I want a boy, and all of them said what they want. And when it came to me, I actually was like, I don't think I want any. And that was quite clear at such a young age. And then people used to tell me, oh, you'll grow up and you'll start to want them, or you'll meet someone and you'll want them. And I was
Right.
waiting for that day, waiting for the right moment, the right person. And a lot of people came my way in relationship wise, but that, I don't know, that instinct of wanting to have kids never came. And now I'm approaching 43 years old, so I'm actually quite close to perimenopause, and there still isn't that desire. So now my body isn't really perhaps in a great position to have them either, and I'm
Right.
okay with that. I'm okay with that. So yeah, they were never part of my karma, let's say.
Got you. And it's interesting you mentioned the perimenopause because Sunday I have another podcast and it's dealing with the perimenopause and the stress and stuff like that women go through. So that'll be interesting as well. So it's. But okay, kids are definitely tough. It's hard work, but it's a joy in it.
Mhm.
And it's one of the gifts that God gave us, right? For those who have kids, it's a gift. And if people don't look at their kids as a gift, then I mean something's wrong.
Yeah,
But
it's the most important job in the world. That's, I always look at parents and say, "Oh my God, you have the most important and hardest job in the world." And sometimes I think that maybe the reason why I never really had that desire is because I feel the weight of that responsibility of
right,
having, another human to be responsible for. And I'm like, wow, I don't feel that I have done enough work on myself to be able to give another life this
but you know what? That's a fear a lot of people have until
yeah.
they have them, right? Because whether they want it or not, one thing about having kids, it teaches you a lot. It teaches you how to be strong. It teaches you
Mhm.
how to be selfless, because you don't have any choice. Because if you're selfish and you got kids, it's going to show, and then it's going to be a detriment to you. You'll wind up with a child protective service case or something like that, or it's just a lot of detriment that comes from that. So it teaches you growth, maturity, right? Whether you want maturity or not, it's you have to be mature to have kids, right? And people that's not ready to be mature, they don't have no choice. I met a lot of people. You ever heard that saying, kids having kids?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so they might have their child mentality, but I tell you one thing: at the end of the day, they learn quicker how to be a parent. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things that it forces you to do.
Yes, I mean, there's one thing to learn how to be a parent in making sure your child survives and getting the basics covered.
All right.
And I guess the way I look at it is more deeper than that, in that we all carry generational trauma, right? We all carry things that we pass on to our children. And because I'm very much aware of that, part of me was like, well, actually I need to work on this more because I'm afraid I will pass that on to my children in that type of way. So I guess there's that element as well in what I was trying to say with that.
I got you. So, are you religious?
So I was born in a very heavily Roman Catholic country. So Malta is
Mm.
very Roman Catholic. I was forced into the religion from a very young age. I went to a Roman Catholic school that was run by nuns. I
Oh,
was, yeah. It's that, when you see movies, it's like that. you know,
it's really like that.
It's really
Oh my
like that,
god.
Desmond. I'm not joking. An all-girls school run by nuns with uniforms. Like
Mm.
it is like that. So there was lots of brainwashing, lots of discipline. We were, forced to do a lot of things that, in hindsight, I don't really agree with. As I started to get older and more mature and more inquisitive and curious, I actually realized how damaging that was. And so I took myself out of that culture and that religion. And then I started to explore more with spiritual philosophies, more towards the East, looking at, Buddhism, Sufism, reading ancient texts, learning about karma and dharma and reincarnation and things that are more that I resonate more with. So I don't subscribe to any dogmatic religion, but I am deeply spiritual. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. A lot of people that's come on or that's been listening to me for the last couple of weeks know I just started my spiritual journey almost 3 months ago, and so yeah, I have given myself to God, and I attend church now, and it's just weird because I always said as an adult I would never step foot in church, but here I am. So yeah, so that's that, and like I said, a lot of things have been aligning for me in my life. A lot of things have been connecting in a positive way for me. So I have to look at that as being divine. I have to look at that as a sign from God. And that's moving forward. That's how I look at things, right? Like going to church and giving myself to God has truly changed me. And it's still a work in progress because it's be days where like subconsciously I do things differently and I question myself like, why is this happening? Like cursing. Like I don't have no problem cursing. I'm not saying because I gave myself to God that I want to be perfect. That's not what I'm saying. But like sometimes I'll be ready to curse. I'll be like, ugh, and then I'll be like, why didn't the words just come out? So my older brother and my younger brother like to tell me all the time because they're into the faith. They like to say that's just God. God's trying to show you a different way to speak. Which is nothing wrong with that. I like you get more respect with less vulgarity. I know I have people look at you in a different light, and I like that. I do have an image I want to uphold. So everything is built on perception. So if people perceive me as the positive man that I am, and as the intellectual that I am, and things of that nature, the advocate that I am, then I gotta stay the course, right? Because I can't deviate from that path because now they're gonna start looking at me like, was that a facade the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want that. So I have to uphold my image, and it's a daily practice. So that's that.
Yeah.
Let me see. So on this platform, I like to conversate, educate, and entertain. And with that being said, we have a treat for everybody that's viewing today. We're gonna have a great conversation. And as you can see on the screen, it says why understanding your attachment style isn't enough to change your relationship patterns, right? Now, first thing is what are um attachment styles, right? So we're going to get into that a little bit. Let me just give the viewers a little definition and we'll just elaborate on that, right? So an attachment style, it's a specific learned pattern of relating to others in relationships, deeply rooted in early childhood bonds with primary caregivers. Based on attachment theory, these patterns influence how adults feel, communicate, and behave regarding emotional intimacy and security. They are generally classified as secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized and can shift over time. Now, with that being said, anything you would like to add to that, Nathalie?
Well, yes. I mean, that's typically how we move through attachment styles. It's a way of understanding how we connect with others. So the labels I call them that are you're either secure, meaning that you are in a relationship that is a healthy way of relating. You're able to handle conflict, you repair quickly, or you're anxious, meaning you attach really in a way that is chasing someone, or you want, if you feel that attention is not being there, then you go and make sure that you're getting it. And then the avoidance style is more, I feel overwhelmed here, so I'm going to shut down. And I think that's a really good foundation to start to understand some of the ways that we approach relationships. But what I'd like to do is probably slightly pivot the way that we approach attachment styles. So
Okay.
I see this happen a lot when people hear these labels, right? I work with a lot of women who are very self-aware and very intelligent, high-functioning women that want to know everything about attachment style. And there's this famous book called Attached. Most of the women I work with have read this book, Attached. And, you know, they get saying, I am anxious, or I am avoidant, or I am disorganized. And they begin to identify with the label really strongly. It's almost like, this is who I am in relationships. So I am anxious, and this is how I present. And what I see happening is then they actually expect their partner to change their behavior based on what their label is. So I'll give you an example. If I show up in a relationship and say I am anxious, then I expect my partner to text me 15 times an hour, because otherwise I'll go crazy. You know,
Right.
I expect
Right.
him to call me all the time. I expect this, this, and this, because you should know that I am anxious style. So you should, you know, pander to my label, as it were. But where I'd like to take it deeper, and this is where I invite women, you know, I work with men as well, by the way, so both men and women, I invite them to look at this a bit deeper, because attachment style is less about who you are and more about what your nervous system has learned in order to preserve connection. So it tends to be that people who display more of an anxious style might have had a parent or a caregiver growing up that were avoidant, right? A parent that might not have been so open with their affection, or affection came with conditions. So they learned, their nervous system actually, because it's an intelligent system, learned to adapt. And when that connection is severed or not there, then they grasp or they connect, or I have to do this, or I need to be a certain way, or look a certain way, or get good grades, or whatever it is to get that attention from your parent. And then that transfers to our adult relationships as we grow older. And when you look at it from this point of view, when you look at it as a nervous system adaptation instead of a label of this is who I am, that matters a lot, because then we're moving from an identity to an adaptation, right? So that's very different territory, because one of them is fixed, this is who I am and I cannot change. But the other feels, okay, I can work with this, you know, I can do something about it. And from a nervous system point of view, what's really happening is both anxious and avoidant in whatever, and even disorganized, the body's constantly scanning, right? We're always scanning for cues of safety or danger. And that's done through, you know, our amygdala, our limbic brain. It's also done through neuroception. So before our conscious mind can even make sense of what's happening in our relationship, our nervous system has already come online and started to do the work, right? It is reading, it might be reading your partner's tone of voice. It might be reading their facial expression. It might be reading how they respond to you. Sometimes I speak to my partner and he's looking at his phone and he hasn't lifted his head, and I'm still speaking, and I instantly, I can feel it in my body. I feel contracted. I feel that I don't matter. I feel small. And that's what's happening. You know, that is the nervous system already coming online before you can even say what is really going on here, right?
Right.
So it's actually these ways on how we experience relationship, whether that's through anxious style, avoidance style, disorganized, it's really how we learned to connect early on in life. Yeah. So if closeness felt inconsistent, or overwhelming or unreliable, then these protective strategies start to come in place.
Okay. So, all right. So, as you were speaking, you was mentioning some of the attachment styles. So, what I wanna do is go through some of the attachment styles and just
Mhm.
elaborate on that and see if any one of us falls under that category.
Sure.
Now the first one is a secure attachment, right? And for those who don't know, the secure attachment is comfortable when you're comfortable with intimacy and independence. These
Mhm.
individuals trust others, manage conflict well, and have high self-worth. You feel like you fit in that category?
I dip in and out. That's the thing that I find with lots of, we're never one style all the time. I feel I'm more of this style the more I do this work. I am
Right.
definitely more in the secure zone. But there are times when I get activated and I'm in the anxious zone. There are times when I am in the avoidance zone as well. So this is this is why I try and stay away from labeling, because they're
Labels.
fluid.
Mhm.
They're so
Right.
fluid. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes with a lot of things in life. It's hard sometimes where they have what you call it, for lack of better words, they put certain things in a bubble and they
Mm.
say, which style are you or which characteristic are you? Just like the five love languages. Like
Yeah.
people always ask that question. And I like to tell people that me being me, I think they're all about equal, but if I had to choose one over the other, I would have to say physical touch, right? So
Mhm.
it's kind of walking into that realm, right? Like because as we talk about secure attachment, right? Let's see, am I comfortable with intimacy and independence? Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Very, very like independent as much as I can, right? I have my um downfalls. I have my struggles in life, but for the most part, I am very much independent, and I'm okay with that. Like I actually feel like I thrive doing things myself.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm not opposed to allowing somebody to assist me. I just would never ask for help. That's just how I always was.
Mhm.
I'm just strong willed like that, and then I can really desperately need it. My life could depend on it, and I wouldn't ask you for help. Right? It's one of those things for me mentally. The way I think is, I think that you know it's what's like what's obvious don't need to be said, right? Like if you see somebody that need help, they don't have to ask for help. You know they need help, right? So just jump in and help them. And if you're not going to do that, I'm just not going to ask for the help. That's just who I am. And sometimes I like to say that I'm working on that, but I don't think I am. I just we are creatures of habit, and I'm just so used to disappointment. I'm so used to not having that support in my life and that helping hand to the point where it's like, why bother? Right? I don't want
Mhm.
to be let down again, type of thing.
Mhm.
Um, now trusting others. Now that's a work in progress, trying to trust others, because I have trust issues because again, I've been let down and felt abandoned growing up in life in my childhood. It's a lot of things in my life that makes it hard for me to trust people,
Mhm.
but I am working on that because I know you have nothing if you don't have trust, right? And that's part of building relationships with people. And I do this podcast, so I do it for a living. I try to build relationships with people. Um, so I have to continue to work on that. I have a abundance of high self worth, right? So, and I feel like I handle conflict very well. Like when I was younger, absolutely not. But now, as I get older, at this stage of my life, I think I deal with um, conflict very, very well. Like I don't do the whole hostility and the negativity, the arguing. And am I perfect? No. So it's been times that I find myself starting to argue, and I know how to remove myself from this situation. I often
Mhm.
say Control Alt Delete. Like that's what I do. I got to get up out of that situation. So
Yeah.
it's hard. So just sticking with that secure attachment. So for the most part, I fit that mold. It's just
Mm.
the trust thing. I don't really fit. I don't fit that. Yeah, but the rest of it falls in line with me. Um, so unless you have something else you want to add to secure attachment, I'm gonna go to the next attachment style.
The only thing I would add is that the nervous system perspective, because they're not really mentioned. It's not really
Yes.
mentioned here. Um, what I find with people who are in more of a secure attachment style is that they're able to bring themselves back into regulation when they're triggered, because we all get triggered no matter what attachment style we have. Someone's going to push our buttons, and especially in intimate relationships, that's where our buttons get pushed the most, right? Because
Absolutely.
it reaches the most vulnerable parts of us. So what I see with the people who are more secure is that when they do get the activation of being triggered, they're able to bring themselves back, but most importantly, notice what's happening and bring themselves back to regulation. And that's how you manage conflict then, right? You don't manage it through shouting and and throwing things at each other. You do it from a state of regulation. So yeah, I would add that piece.
So it took me a long time to get to where I'm at, right? It's emotional maturity, and just the trials and tribulations have helped me get to this point. You have to have that discipline. And when you have that discipline, you start to see, okay, well, I've been doing things my way for X amount of years and it has not been working. So what am I going to do to progress in life, right? Because nobody wants to degress, right? You don't want to go backwards. So as long as you have that wherewithal and you have that determination and that drive, you will succeed, right? Because nobody that's successful in life gets there by not wanting it, like not really wanting it. You got to sink your toes in the dirt and you have to grind it out. And that's how you be successful. And it's an everyday process. You can't be discouraged. You can't let somebody else hold you back or hold you down. You can't allow somebody to tell you you can't do, right? You have to have in your mind that I am capable. And as long as you have that mindset, you will be successful in one way or another, you know? So that's my little spiel on that. So I'll go to the next attachment style, which is anxious, preoccupied attachment, right? That's where you crave high emotional intimacy. You often fear rejection or abandonment and may be perceived as clingy or needy. So I'm just going. Yeah, go ahead. What would you like to say to that? Because I'll probably be longer than you probably on that one.
I really don't like the terms clingy and needy, right? Those are very, yeah. These are words I hear from women mostly. And I hear them when they come to me initially for help, right?
About them being clingy or about the man being clingy?
Them thinking that they are needy or clingy.
Okay.
Because their partner has described them that way.
Okay.
And that puts someone in a state of there's something wrong with me, right? So I'm doing something wrong here because I'm clingy or needy. I shouldn't have these needs.
Right.
And that is a huge misconception, and it puts us in a state of, shutdown.
Right.
So again, because I gave the reflection earlier that we shouldn't see these as labels, but as nervous system adaptations.
Right.
Typically, someone who is presenting as an anxious attachment, you just read it there, they fear rejection or abandonment. Why do they fear rejection or abandonment? Because most likely they were rejected or abandoned when they were little, usually.
Right.
Or in a past relationship, whatever it was, but it's somewhere in the past, right? So when your experience of intimacy is preceded by the pain of rejection and abandonment, your nervous system goes into high alert, right? It creates all that it can to keep you safe so that you never have to experience that pain of rejection and abandonment again. And it does it by using what I call protectors. And the protectors are our behaviors that we do in order not to feel that pain again. And behaviors can be like, I ask you, when are we gonna meet again? Or I send 10,000 messages a day, like tell me you love me, or I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean? This is the type of behavior you would see in anxious attachment style. They want to know that their partner wants them and loves them, but once is not enough. They need to constantly know. Because again, now this is not happening consciously. They don't consciously decide, I want to do this. This is an unconscious nervous system behavior that's coming from the amygdala, which is actually your danger sensing spot in your brain, right?
Right.
The moment your partner doesn't text you that good morning text that he does every single morning, even if it's half an hour late,
Right.
your amygdala is going to say danger, 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 do something about it, do something about it. So whatever that behavior does, it's perceived by the other partner as needy,
Right.
but it's not needy. It's actually a bid for safety. Please let me know that I'm safe
Right.
because I've experienced this pain. I don't experience this pain again. And I'm doing this because I need my system to feel safe again.
Right.
So that's why, these terms are a bit dangerous sometimes when we use them in this way.
Well, see, the thing is, I would say that it's more of a chemical imbalance going
Hmm.
on there, right? Now, I understand that it might be some kind of unresolved trauma that lies there because God knows I have a lot of trauma that I still deal with. Um, but on the surface though, it is like needy, right? Because it's a chemical imbalance and you need it because you lacked it growing up, right? And you're scarred, you feel damaged, right? So you need that to feel alive. You need that comfort, you need that reassurance. So there is a need there. And that's what I was saying earlier about people that rush into relationships and they rush into marriages. They do so without getting to know that person. So it's very important to get to know that person because those are the things that y'all can work on. So a lot of people, they get in these relationships and they be like, oh, they clingy, they needy. That the only people that say that are the people that did not put in the work, did not put forth the effort to get to know that person. Because guess what? If they knew that, they either A, wouldn't have decided to be in a relationship, or they would have B, proceeded with the relationship, but help them and not exploit their weaknesses.
Hmm.
Right? Not to call it a weakness, but for lack of better words, it is. So you should be you should enter a relationship trying to uplift that person, trying to help that person, try to encourage that person to be the better version of themselves, right? Like for instance, like when I went over there, I said anxious, preoccupied attachment, right? I said those are the people that crave high emotional intimacy. I fall in that category. I desired the high emotional intimacy, right? And I also fear rejection and abandonment. And a lot of my viewers, some of them know, some of them don't. And I know I'm telling myself, but I don't care because I'm human. I'm still a man, and I don't hide for anything. I'm human. So these are my feelings. This is who I am. So I'm putting forth my true self. I do fear rejection. I do fear abandonment, and a lot of people fear these things or fear other things, but they're afraid to be vulnerable. Specifically, men. A lot of men are afraid to show vulnerability. I'm not one of them. I know it's okay to be vulnerable. But I had a rough childhood. Some people might say it's not rough, but it's like we deal with things and we cope with things differently. My mom, my father, they went their own paths. My mom was a young mother. My father was off and on drug addict. It's a lot of things. Wasn't in the house. I wasn't getting showered with that love that a lot of kids that I would say was getting. I was in a foster home from the ages of 3 to 5. You know what I'm saying? I was always labeled a problem child. I was always labeled problematic, things of this nature. And I knew I wanted to be successful. I knew I wanted to be better. I knew I wanted that admiration. I knew I wanted all this love and affection and attention and all this stuff. But when I was not getting that, it carries over to my adult years. Because when you feel abandoned, unloved, unvalued, or devalued rather, dehumanized at times, when you feel these things, it's like it's exhausting and it's taxing on the body and the mind.
Hmm.
And over time, it hinders you. And this is why I advocate for parents to be active in their kids' lives and to be the best version of themselves. Because when you yell at a kid, you don't know what that'll do to them long term psychologically. You don't. So you have to embrace them. You have to shower them with love. You have to make them feel connected and human and loved. Right. So again, I fear rejection and abandonment. Right.
Hmm.
Now, do I think I'm clingy and needy? Absolutely not. Have I been told that before? yes. But in my mind, the way my mind works, I don't see that because I am okay with a comfortable silence. I've been in relationships where the woman hated that. Like, what is a comfortable silence? We in a relationship. Like we could be sitting there, like, and you be talking my ear off. And not saying it's a problem talking to me, but like I don't need that 24/7. Like, or I'm at work and you're texting me saying, "Oh, 5 o'clock I did this, 5:15 I did this." I don't need all that.
Mhm.
Especially coming home, I'm trying to unwind. I like that comfortable silence. First thing in the morning. I hate the good mornings early in the morning. I hate it. I do. Like it's nothing wrong with it, but I like when I first get up, I like the first hour to myself. Now, granted, I have kids, so I can't be like that with my kids, but like for adults, so I like my first hour just comfortable, just me, grounded, me doing a lot of decompression and self-reflection. That's what I like. So when people have told me um that I was needy or clingy, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't agree with that.
Mhm.
That's my
Yeah.
older brother. He also has a podcast. It's faith based. It's called From the Battle to the Glory. So
Oh,
I want to say this since he's watching. I mean I've told him this before, but like every time I see him, I got to give him a hug. As you know, him and my younger brother, they always kept preaching the word of God to me, and I was like, I don't want to hear that. I'm never gonna go to church. So when I decided to take that leap of faith, and I went to church, I went to his church. It's an hour drive, but I fell in love with it because I had an amazing experience. So it was good, and so he has helped me on this path, and not just him. He has another guy that be on his podcast. His name is Rodney. He also has a podcast called Dad Mentality Podcast. So them and his co-host Lady T, she's they speak religion over there, and they always was pouring into me. So now I find myself pouring into others
mhm.
about this religion thing. So it's crazy how God works and maneuvers things in life. Everything comes full circle.
Yeah,
uh
absolutely. Yeah, and well done. Well done for doing this work and recognizing this in yourself. And what you said there actually confirms the point that I mentioned about the labeling of clingy and needy. It's almost like your body rejected that. You were like, no, that's not what I am. But also, you're
right.
right. We all have needs, right? We
Mhm.
all have the need, inherent need to be safe, to feel safe in our bodies. We all have that need. We have the need to be loved and accepted and not abandoned and not rejected, right? We all have that need. But when those needs are then considered needy or clingy, then that has a different texture to it, right? Then
Yeah,
that's it's like
right, right,
I'm insulting you almost for having those needs, right?
right,
And
right. Yeah.
that's kind of the point I was trying to make, which you confirmed. So yeah.
Yeah, again, it's about yeah, yeah. So by definition, you be okay. Maybe I fit that mold, but just to hear it out loud, it's like no. Like you said, it do come off as being insulting, and
Hmm.
it's one of those things I can't stand. Like for instance, this is off topic, but like a couple words was triggers for me growing up. Dumb, stupid, retarded. Right? People used to say that. I didn't care how old you was, how big you was. You used those words, and you was addressing me. We was fighting. Right? I had a lot of rage, a lot of resentment, a lot of anger growing up. Um, Over time, it took me a very long time to get over those words. I think I was maybe like 21 or 22 when I said, you know what? One, fighting is not the answer. And two, people joking around and say those things. But like for me, it bothered me. It cut deeply more so because of my upbringing. I went to a school for uh, that was made for behavior children. And
Hmm.
and then from people that's going to regular schools was like, oh, they gave me those labels. They were saying all these nasty things to me. So I already had a lot of resentment and rage and stuff. So for me, it was fitting that we was fighting. But after a while, when I started getting older, people was like, "Oh, you still acting the same way you was before." So that resonated with me. I used, and what used to be looked at as being cool was being frowned upon. I
Hmm.
see my circle started to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And I was like, why? So then I was like, okay, these lessons, these life lessons my father was always trying to instill in me is about perception. It's true. I have to change my ways. I have to do things differently. I cannot go out there in the streets and put my hands on people thinking it's okay because ain't nobody gonna want to be a part of my life. So this is why I tell it's my oldest son, he having issues in school now. So I hate it. And my mom liked to say, "Oh, that's just you reborn, reincarnated, right? You had these issues, and now God's trying to show you how you was. What are you going to do moving forward to fix that and address that for the next generation?" So, I try to come up with a lot of things to implement with my kids. So, because I don't want that. One thing, I was born in the hood, right? And one thing my parents never wanted was, specifically my mother, is me and my son, me and my brother living in the hood, moved us to the suburbs. And there are a lot of black people, people in the black community. What they do is, when they in the hood in those rough areas, they dream of making it out. But when they're still stuck in it and they see another person of color make it out, it's frowned upon. They criticize. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough. But it's life. So that's that. I know I went on a tangent. Um, so there's another attachment style. Hold on. I feel like I was gonna sneeze. Um, it's called the dismissive avoidant attachment, right? That's when you prioritize independence and find emotional closeness uncomfortable. It's where you often appear aloof or distant. And to that, you say what?
So I see nothing wrong with prioritizing independence. As you rightly said earlier, it's something that you value as well. So I would reword that, or I would use different words for that. Is they actually feel safer. People who are avoidant attachment, they feel safer when they're in their own company, and they feel more agitated when there's someone in their company. So that's why maybe prioritize independence. In this case, I would want that to mean, actually, I prefer to be on my own because I feel safer than when someone is with me. Because then, if you see the second statement there, they find emotional closeness uncomfortable. And that is why they probably prioritize independence, right? Because being close to someone is making them feel uncomfortable. And that's why they might be labeled, again, these are labels, aloof, distant.
Right.
They're not aloof, they're not distant. They're actually, again, their nervous system is trying to protect them. So typically people who, again, I'm not generalizing, but most of the time, people that have these type of behavioral styles or attachment style grew up in an environment where emotions were thrown at them quite overwhelmingly. So to give you an example, I have a very close friend who's more of an avoidant style. And growing up, his mother was very emotionally hysterical, and she would project that onto him. And she would then expect him to manage her emotional turbulence. And that, to a very young nervous system, is too overwhelming, that the only way at that point to survive that barrage of activation is to, I need to shut this down. I need to create a barrier here, because all of this emotional turmoil is coming my way. So they either not speak, or stay in their bedroom, or want to be alone, etc. So fast forward again to adult relationships, and it doesn't have to be the same, right? It doesn't have to be that they meet someone who's just as hysterical as his mom was. It just needs to have a little flavor of that, right? So if his partner needs him to, I don't know, she's requesting something of him, like, why don't you spend more time with me? Why don't we have, more intimacy? Whatever it is, again, this is unconscious. This happens really quickly, 1,000 times a second. That's how quick the nervous system works. It's going to kind of come online and say, when's the last time? What do we remember about a woman asking something of me?
Right.
It's going to time travel back to when he was young and in a room with his mother, right? So then the behavior after that would be him shutting down, or him not giving her, the attention she needs, whatever that is. And to her, he will come across as aloof or distant.
Gotcha.
So that is kind of what I would add to that attachment style.
Got you. All right. So, and there was one other one that I have for you. It's the fearful, avoidant, or disorganized attachment style. Right. That's where you have the it says desired closeness, but fear it. That's when you like you desire that closeness, but you're afraid of it, which leads to inconsistent, conflicted behavior and difficulty trusting partners. Again, it's another attachment style where we talk about fear and difficulty as far as trusting. So okay, what would you like to add as far as that?
Well, this confused me a bit because we all desire closeness, whatever attachment style we display.
Right.
Whether we're anxious, dismissive, avoidant, secure, obviously, fearful, avoidant, we all desire closeness. It's a primal human need.
Right.
Now, the way we go about it is different, and that's why these styles are here, right? So that was something that I kind of thought, okay, this is a bit confusing for me. What I know to be as disorganized is when you actually switch from anxious to avoidant. And this is actually a style that I display, or at least used to display before I did.
Avoid it?
No, the anxious avoidance.
Anxious, okay.
So there is a style called anxious avoidant, which is also known as disorganized. So what that means, I'll give you a real life example. I'll start out dating someone, and in the first few months, let's say, 5-6 months, I display more of an anxious style where I'm actually in the first month or so, I'm quite cool about it. I'm not, not really bothered what he thinks or how he feels about me. But then time starts to pass on, we meet, we date a bit more, and then I start to display more anxious styles, right? I crave his time, I crave his intimacy, I want to know if he loves me or not, like, is he committed? And I might send, a bit more text than I need to, or whatever that is. And then he starts to actually show up, right? And he gives me that attention that I'm asking for. And he is showing up and he wants to meet me and he wants to this. And then I'm like, whoa. It becomes a bit overwhelming for me.
Overwhelming. Mm-hmm.
And then I display the avoidant. Like, I shut down. I don't answer his messages. If he asks me he wants to meet, I'm like, I'm busy. So that's disorganized, where you switch. And then when I do that, he might pull back. And if he pulls back, I go back to anxious. Why are you pulling back? Right? Yes. And then he comes back and I'm like, no. So that, to me, is what disorganized attachment is, where you're not you're
right
or the other. Yeah.
Now, standing on the opposite side, that's very difficult to deal with. I've dealt with women that was like that, and it's so troublesome, right? Because it's like a give and take. And then, like, especially for me, I'm an overthinker. So for me, I'm like, is it somebody else in the picture? Is this just a game to her, or does she only talk to me when it's convenient? So these are certain things I feel like when people recognize this about themselves, that they should work on, because being an avoidant, in my opinion, won't get you but so far, right? Because everybody wants to feel desired and wanted, right? So if you give and take, and it's a seesaw, it's a ping pong game. It's just very hard to read a person that way. I mean, I've dealt with women that like you just said, it was the same way, and they might have said, "Oh, I want this," and then when you get close, they like, "Oh my God, you touched me! Oh, did it hurt you? Like, was that inappropriate in your eyes?" No, but it was just weird. And then it's like, that's it. So it's like, it's very difficult to deal with people to that magnitude. It really is. So what will be your? I know this might be a little biased because you say you exhibit it yourself, but like, what could people do when they recognize some signs in themselves?
That's the $1 million question, right? And that's the core of the work that I do, because recognizing what attachment style you are is one thing, but displaying something else or being able to do something about it is a very different thing. So I find this is where a lot of people get really frustrated, because most people, as I said, are aware of what attachment style they are, but somehow they
Right.
cannot shift it, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
they still repeat it. So I would say that first of all, when they find themselves in that live moment, the moment really doesn't care how much their brain understands about attachment theory. You're actually not in the realm of understanding when you are triggered.
Right.
You're in the realm, as I said before, of that limbic brain. And the limbic brain means that your thinking brain goes offline. So it's really important to catch the moment when the body starts to react,
Right.
when you are either feeling anxious or want to run away or avoid it, right? And this is a skill that needs to be learned. It's not something that comes naturally or something that you could read in a book. And this is why somatic work is so important. This is why I bring somatic work in, because it's about recognizing what the body is doing in that moment. So, again, I'll give you an example. If I sent a text to my partner and he hasn't replied, I start to feel a contraction in my chest. My heart rate starts to go up. I don't know, my palms start to sweat. I start to overthink. Maybe he's with someone else, or, maybe he's doing something. Maybe he doesn't want me anymore. Blah, blah, blah. All of that, usually we bypass that and we go straight to the behavior. Okay, I need to text him again. Or I need to see if he was online. Was he on Instagram? Like, was he sharing stories? Whatever.
Oh no.
You
Oh
want to
no.
you want to know what he's up to because he hasn't replied to my text, right? By then it's too
Oh.
late. By then you have already bypassed the somatic signal, the signal your body is giving you, because now you're in behavior. So this is where the work comes in, is how do you notice these physical sensations and then you pause. It's finding that gap between what you're feeling, and it's uncomfortable, right? It will be uncomfortable, and not reacting or not giving into the behavior. And actually then saying, this is a younger part of me. Or I like to say, how old is this part?
Mm,
What is this part feeling?
I like
And
that.
yeah, like, does this feeling familiar? What memory comes to me when I feel like this? And bringing that compassion to that part of you that's actually trying to keep you safe, believe it or not, as uncomfortable as it is.
Right.
And you say, there, and this is where self-soothing comes in. I know this is scary. I know that you're feeling, abandoned or whatever, rejected. But it's okay, and I'm here. And this is where parts work comes in then. I do a lot of parts work. Is the adult part of me is talking to the little part of me who's very scared, and I am
Right.
soothing her. And when you do that, the charge dissipates, and you are more likely not to act that behavior that comes across as anxious behavior to the other. So that would be the work. This is the work that I do with myself and with others, is finding that pause, noticing what's happening, and then speaking to that part.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So I just wanted to add to that, right? So, um, for the viewers and the listeners, right? Since I like to educate on this podcast, understanding your attachment style is only intellectual insight, right? While changing relationship patterns requires retaining deeply ingrained emotional, nervous system, and behavioral responses. Knowledge does not automatically rewire the automatic fear-based reactions formed in childhood, demanding consistent, corrective, and often uncomfortable action to build new patterns, as you was just speaking to. But more importantly, here is why your attachment style is not enough to change your relationship patterns, right? Um, Understanding you are an avoidant or anxious does not automatically stop you from acting on those impulses when triggered. Changing requires interrupting automatic emotional reactions, which is difficult without tools. As you was just saying, like you say, you hate the labels is because you might fit into this one, you might fit into this one, you might jump back and forth. Um, so that's the thing. Just being aware, as you said earlier, being aware that you might fit in one bubble, um, doesn't mean that you're going to be able to to change it, right? Because it requires other things. So I like how well versed you are in this conversation. So, um, why else would you say that understanding your attachment style isn't enough to change your relationship patterns?
Um, because I feel that knowing your pattern or knowing your attachment style is not the language of the body. And everything that you are experiencing that is bringing you to act in this way is actually coming from your body and not from your mind. And by that, I mean that it is more of a visceral, almost primal intelligence, and that's our nervous system. And it works so fast that our mind cannot really catch up with it. So what I tend to notice a lot with people I work with is that, and I specifically actually work with people that have done a lot of research already, that know their attachment style, in and out. They know their patterns. They've read so many books, and they're like, I've went to courses and I've done this and I've done that. But then my boyfriend didn't show up for our appointment, and now I am spiraling and out of control. So the thing is that because this is happening at lightning speed, once the activation is passed, then our conscious awareness comes online. And then they start to say, why did I do that? I should have known better. And this is the moment people start to doubt themselves. And this is what I'd like to change here, hopefully, in this podcast, is to change the minds of people to learn to still trust themselves, even if they're reacting the way they do, despite all that they know. Because when that happens, we think, well, what's wrong? I should know this. Why I'm still acting that way? And the reason is there's another part of you that's actually coming online at that point, and everything that you know is switched off.
Right.
So the work isn't just understanding your attachment style. It's building enough capacity in your nervous system that when the protectors come online, by protectors, I mean all the behaviors that you do in order to maintain the connection, right? Whether that's sending the extra text or shutting down or whatever it is. Can we build enough capacity in our nervous system that when these behaviors come in to try and save the day,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have to completely let them take over? That you can say to them, oh, hold on a minute. You don't need to you don't need to come save me just now. I've got this. Mm. And that, again, is a practice. It's something that you are then able to stay present enough in your body to notice, I am activated right now. There's a protective response here. And maybe a younger part of me feels unsafe. And yeah, go on, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, so it sounds like you're teaching people to practice to be the secure attachment style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That is the goal. I mean, that is the goal. Although, as I said before, we can never be in secure attachment all the time. I mean, there are some people who are, but we always get triggered. But what I teach people is to how often can you come back to regulation? How often can you come back to secure attachment? So whenever we find ourselves activated, whether that's avoidant, disorganized, or anxious, can we come back to secure? And the more we do that, it's like a muscle, right? You work out. So the same thing. The more reps we do, the same thing with our nervous system. Our nervous system is like a muscle. In fact, we call it neurotoning. There is a tone to it. and a tone is a shape. Now,
Gotcha.
the more we practice this, that tone develops, right? And we're there able to be in secure, regulated places more often. And that's what I teach.
Got it, got it. I like that. I like that. I like that. I wanted to ask you this earlier. That book you was telling me about, or telling the viewers about, it's called Attached. You know what the author?
Oh, I forgot.
If not, I can find it. All right, as you look that up, I just wanted to I just say this. Attachment styles are like blueprints, right? They're formed in early life, meaning they are deeply ingrained in your neural pathways and automatic, uh, and not conscious. It's not a conscious thought process. So I just wanted to add that before. Did you find it or not yet?
Yes. So it's called Attached by Dr. Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller.
Rachel
S.F. Heller, Heller.
Yeah, because that's one thing about me. I love to educate myself. I love reading. So I have a whole bunch of books, and it's overwhelming sometimes because I said this on my last podcast. Like, what I do, like, and I'm trying to break free from it, but like I'll pick up a book that's very interesting, and I'll be taking notes on it, and I'm like, I love it. I love what I'm reading. But then I find another book that catches my eye. I read the little synopsis. I flick through the pages. I'm like, oh, I like that. So now I find myself jumping from book to book to book, and sometimes I get the message and the stories mixed up. But I just love anything that's going to make me smarter. I just love intelligence, So that's just a little bit about me. That's why I wrote that down as soon as you said it. Because I definitely want to check it out. Especially I'm very supportive as well. Like, so book authors and things of that nature, I'll go out and I'll buy that book just to show support. And I like to tell people all the time, there's a lesson in every lesson in life. So in anything that you read, you're going to learn something from it. It might be something frivolous or something so minute to you, something that's small scale to your mind's eye, but you read it, it's a message in every message. So I like to tell people that all the time. So I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, brilliant.
Go ahead. What was you about to say?
I said brilliant. Let me know what you think about it.
I will. And to the viewers, I also want to add this. You cannot think your way out of a relational pattern. You must feel your way out through new experiences. Healing requires being in a safe, consistent relationship, whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship, to prove to your nervous system that safety is possible. What would you like to add to that little notion?
Well, I read this before coming here, and I'd like to add something. Actually, maybe change something even. No, add. Yes, healing does require being in a safe, consistent relationship.
Right.
It doesn't need to be with someone else at first. So to prove to your nervous system that safety is possible,
right,
especially if you're entering a romantic relationship, it's best to actually create that safety for yourself first.
Right.
Otherwise, there's a risk of becoming codependent, because then your nervous system can only feel safe when that person is around. And if that's the case, then you're going to crave them and want to be around them all the time. And then when you're alone, you're back to being anxious, right? Or unsafe. Right. So this is what I kind of wanted to add to this, is that part of the healing process is actually cultivating that safety within yourself. And this is where, again, I love parts work, because parts work really takes all these little pieces of us and creates relationships with them. So you're never alone. There's so many parts of you. You're always with company within yourself. Right. And each one is going to provide safety for the other, right? Especially the parts that are centered and grounded, the parts of you that are secure, and the parts of you that are, strong. They can actually help the parts of you that feel weak and vulnerable and scared and anxious and all of that. So this is why I work with individuals. I actually don't work with couples. I work with one-on-one to help them cultivate this inner safety within them, so that once they're safe within themselves and then they meet someone, then they can create safety together, right? Without it being codependent. So that's kind of what I wanted to add to that.
I got you. And, you know, to add to what you were saying too, like, you know, that's another thing I often tell people. It does start with self. Everything starts with self. But sometimes, you know how, I don't know if you've been to therapy or whatever, but one thing, and I had several different therapists in my life, but one thing they always say is, you know, find what grounds you, right? So even though everything starts with self, you have to have a relationship with yourself first before anything else or anybody else. Sometimes when there's a chemical imbalance, you need that other person or another person to help you feel grounded. That's just my opinion, though. You know,
Mhm.
because sometimes it's hard to do things yourself, or if
Mhm.
you can't figure it out, you constantly find yourself stuck in the mud, and you're trying to figure it out, but you can't. Sometimes you need another person to feel grounded. Now, I understand what you were saying is you don't want them to be dependent on that person, because when that person disappears or that person's not available, then now you're spiraling out of control. So I understand what you're saying, but like that's why life is so complex and difficult. But sometimes people do need the other person to help them be grounded. You know?
Oh, completely. I completely agree. So, what you call chemical imbalance, I like to call nervous system toning. It's the same thing. You can see it from a hormonal and chemical point of view. I see it from a nervous system point of view, but we're talking about the same thing. But if you
Yeah,
think of nervous system like a frequency tone, the frequency forks.
yeah,
When you hit one and you have another in the room, it resonates at the same frequency. And I see nervous systems the same. So that's why it really helps. It's called co-regulation, believe it or not. So when I'm in a state maybe of dysregulation and someone who has a regulated system is in my space, there's the potential there for me to become more regulated because this person is holding that in my space, right? This could happen between partners. I see it happen a lot in professional settings like therapists, and space holders. I see it a lot happen in my sessions where I'm, showing up in the state and then the client eventually gets regulated after a time. So yes, I agree absolutely that we need other people in order to to create that safety and regulation. We need others to be that. The caveat, I guess, that I wanted to make there is that if we have that awareness that we also have that for ourselves, then we are able to enjoy or relish in the co-regulation, but also self-regulation. We need both. We need able to self-regulate. We need to be able to co-regulate. Now, what I do with people who display avoidant attachment styles is I get them to practice co-regulation. So because they're avoidant and they want to be away from the people, how do
right.
I get them to regulate when people are around? And for anxious attachment style people, I get them to self-regulate. So
Got you.
how
Makes
do you
sense.
regulate on your own, right? But
Right.
secure people can co-regulate and self-regulate. And that's the goal.
Gotcha. Okay, I like that, and that's why I like these kind of conversations, because it allows me to exercise my mind a little bit, right, and get insight, and that's what it's all about. It's about educating people, uplifting people, and encouraging people, and and that's always the hope when I have these things, just not just for myself, but anybody that's viewing it. My intent is to give somebody something to process. I like thought-provoking conversations, and I like when other people's minds start to click on all cylinders, and they go back and forth, and they say aha, and they start asking questions for themselves. So that's good, because the mind is the most powerful thing in the human body, and in life. So um I read something that was very interesting. I'm not sure where I read it at, but it says people often unknowingly choose partners who reinforce their old patterns, making it hard to change without conscious effort to break the cycle. What do you think about that?
Hmm. I I believe that's for a purpose. Now, this I might get a bit more esoteric on this point. Oh, my cat has joined the conversation. By the
It's okay. It's a
way.
big cat, a little cat.
It's quite a big cat. You can only see his tail. I know. It's his feeding time, so you might. Um, so I believe we. It's no accident that we get partnered by a bigger force than us, um, with a person that's going to mirror to us what still needs to be worked on ourselves. Right? I find that actually a divine intervention. Call it that. It is by design, actually. Now, when you say reinforce their old patterns, I would change the language slightly. I mean, yes, it could seem as we're reinforcing the old patterns because we're going to feel, oh shit, this is a different guy, but I'm feeling the same stuff I felt with the previous guy. I'm still
Right, right,
acting this way, I'm still feeling anxious. So, yes, it's an old pattern. Yes, you can call it reinforced, but it's actually mirrored. It's really mirrored to you until you learn that this is where you need to do the work on yourself, right?
right.
So the fact that it's making it hard to change without conscious effort is maybe because people feel helpless, right? They think, well, I've read all these books, I've changed a partner, I've changed a situation, I've done all this, yet this old pattern is back. So it feels hard to change, but because there is not that wisdom piece, and it's not knowledge, it's wisdom, which is a different thing, that deep down that this is actually showing you this is where you need to focus on. This is
Absolutely.
why you need to, do the work. So that's what I believe relationships are actually. They're a mirror into ourselves as to where the work still needs to be done.
Right. So for me, like what I got from that was, like I said earlier, we're all like creatures of habit, right? And it's like, when people talk about trauma bonding, I think trauma bonding really comes from like people that's always going through trauma. They're drawn to other people that's going through trauma. They say we like-minded people. So I think when it's that reinforced piece is, for some reason we keep attracting the same people because of that's what we're used to. And it's like stepping outside of that box and trying something different is like foreign territory for us. So I think that's where that comes from. Because people are afraid to change, as scary as it is, but it's the truth. So yeah, that's my takeaway for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we choose what's familiar. So if our nervous system is well versed at the old pattern, it knows what to do, even if it's not good for us, but it knows
Yeah,
the sequence. It knows that
yeah.
if this happens, I do this, and when that happens, I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this. Again, this
We
all
already
happens.
know what to expect. Yeah,
We know what to expect, right? So
right,
yes, we're going to be attracted to that because
right,
that's what we know.
right.
And we get attracted to that, but there's going to be turmoil.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
and
it,
that
and that's
and
the
the,
and that's the thing. We like to call things red flags, and people say, "Well, if
yeah,
you recognize the red flags, why do you keep running to it?" It's just, I don't know. It's something about that give and take. I think it's sort of like when kids play video games or just anything in life. If life was easy, we all be doing something else, right? Because things that's simple and easy, it becomes boring. We don't want that. We That's why people run to danger. People run to adversity. We run to challenges, even though it's challenging and it might get on our nerves and drive us up a wall. We might deviate from it, but we come right back because quite naturally, right? We want to be winners. We want to win. We don't like to lose. It's just naturally embedded in us, right? So that's what it is. So sometimes we see red flags in relationships and we still go towards it because it's almost like we feel like we can fix it. We feel like we're different than everybody else. Everybody else can't handle those situations and that turmoil that's going to come from chasing after that fire,
Mhm.
and we put ourselves right into it. Right? It's easy to sit there and say, "This person ain't no good. Don't mess with them." Right? Because now in your mind, it's that curiosity.
Mhm.
Right? Oh, why they say that? Oh, I'm different. So in essence, what they're saying is don't deal with that person because they're negative or they X, Y, and Z. Like I can't handle it. So then we run to it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where it comes down to. That's why we like complex situations. That's why I also hate when people say, I don't like drama. I'm drama free. No, you're not. Because if you watch movies, we watch it because it's entertaining, right? We all love drama. We just don't like when we're the center of that drama. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I like to tell people.
I think we're addicted to drama in a way that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
So the fact that we go for it actually says a lot about what culture we live in and what, the type of society we are and the type of mindset that we were, cultured into. Because looking at people from different cultures that are more community based, that are more body based, that are more wholesome, there's no drama there, and they live very
Right.
peaceful lives.
Right.
Um, yes, we're addicted to it, but it's a dopamine hit, like everything else. So
Right.
yes, we want it in movies and on our entertainment, and then we want it in our relationships, absolutely. But does that make it healthy? I don't know.
No, not always. No, but it's just something that drives us. It's like
Yeah.
the fuel in the car. It's like that breakfast in the morning. It's like we don't necessarily like when it becomes a detriment or it bogs us down, but we love it.
Yeah.
We love it. That's why people thrive when they come up with these romance movies or novels or these action packed thrillers and stuff like that. It's the drama in it. That's why when people tell stories, sometimes it sound over dramatized,
Mm.
but it might be the truth. But the way they deliver it sounds like something in a movie.
Yeah.
And the reason why we dramatize our explanations and our storytelling is because of enthusiasm. It's something that keeps us going. Like I said, it's that fuel, it's that gas in that car for you. And yeah, people love it. You ever get in a conversation, you can just pretend to be excited about something and just move your head when you talking to somebody and they start moving their head, their eyes get big because it's a drug. Drama
Mm.
is a drug.
Yeah.
And so I hate when people say, I don't like no drama. No, that's a lie. Because then they'd be the same ones that go and gossip. I mean, I thought you don't
Mhm.
like drama. Why are you gossiping? Why are you telling this person what this person said? You know what I'm saying? We love that. We get off on it. Uh, uh, so I wanted to say this before, like for many, the insecure pattern feels safe or familiar. Letting go of that pattern requires facing the extreme discomfort of vulnerability. And
Mm.
earlier I know I touched on vulnerability a little bit. So
Yeah.
letting go of that pattern requires that extreme discomfort and vulnerability. And again, we a lot of us are afraid to face those vulnerabilities or display those vulnerabilities. You know,
Mm.
um, so yeah, and we run to what's safe. I think you were saying that before. Oftentimes in life, we go into our little safe haven, wherever it makes us feel most comfortable, and that's where we go. That's why a lot of problems go unresolved as well in life because we go into this shell. We just go hide in wherever we feel comfortable instead of facing the outcome or the situation. So
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and it's also, letting go of that pattern. That pattern kept you safe once.
right,
When that pattern formed, it formed because there was actual danger. A danger that you weren't accepted in your little family tribe, a danger that you would be excluded from somewhere. So that pattern was necessary. It's what you know, and then the discomfort comes from the unknown, right? If I don't have this pattern, then what do I have? What will happen?
Right.
How do I cope? Like, what? There's all these questions. So yeah, that's why it's extremely uncomfortable and extremely vulnerable. And this is a disclaimer I make to every person that wants to work with me. This is not, unicorns and rainbows. This is not an easy ride. This will be uncomfortable at first, and you will need to
Right.
be vulnerable.
Right.
But that's where growth happens, and that's where then you flourish after that. So you need to be prepared to be uncomfortable.
Right. Now another thing we talked about discussing, right? And I thought it was very interesting, and I'm very intrigued on where you go with this, right? It
Mm.
says why your nervous system often choose your partner before your mind does.
Mm.
Why is that?
Well, I think this is one of probably the most misunderstood parts of attraction, because people here, you're attracted to what's familiar. And sometimes they reduce that to, I'm choosing the wrong people. I keep choosing the wrong people because that's familiar. I think there's a bit more to it than that. So from a nervous system perspective, as I said before, your nervous system is scanning all the time. So it's scanning the tone of voice, it's scanning eye contact. I mean, both our nervous systems right now are constantly scanning each other to see what's dangerous, what's safe, what's life-threatening at 1,000 times per second. So it's constantly going on. And it is outside of our level of consciousness, right? So because it's online before we are online, when I say we, our conscious mind,
Right.
then it's doing the choosing first, because it's looking, say this man walks in and my nervous system is already checking out eye contact, availability, his pace, his emotional expression, his tone of voice, whether he's warm, whether he's kind. It's doing all that before my conscious mind creates a story about what's
Mm,
happening, right?
got you.
So attraction to someone often begins as a body-based recognition. My body recognizes this person
Right.
before my mind says, oh, I like him because he's tall and he's got money, and whatever story you want to put on that, right?
Right.
Your body does the choosing. And sometimes when the body, well, what the body recognizes isn't always healthy, right? Isn't always someone that's good for you, but it is someone that's familiar. It's someone that your nervous system knows how to navigate.
Right.
Um, I have quite a few clients actually who tell me they just don't feel anything with the nice guys, right? With guys who actually
See,
show
and that's
up
the
for
funny
them.
thing. I've heard that, but this is the thing. Every woman, they say they want the things that come with the kind or the
Yeah,
nice guy.
yeah,
But then, I hear it a lot. When they get that man, they say, "Oh no, I'm not attracted to that," or "I don't like it,"
yeah,
or "That's not enough," or "That's weird," or "That's weak." And so to me, that's a head scratcher. Like, why do you think that is? They want it, but then when they get it, they reject it.
yeah. You're gonna learn today, Desmond, because this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Wanting the nice guy is a cognitive story. I want this nice guy because he will do these things for me, and I'm so sick of all the guys that are ignoring me or treating me nastily, whatever that is. So the story is I need a nice guy. The
Right.
body has another agenda, right? So when I explore this with women, what they mean is that there's no intensity, there's no pull, there's no emotional charge with nice guys, because that intensity comes from not knowing where you stand with someone. So if someone is emotionally unavailable or aloof, or the type of guys who are they say one thing, they do the other, or they show up one day and then they don't show up, that is what keeps, in your words, the chemistry going, and in my
Right.
words, the nervous system going, in a way, and we can call it drama, that hooks them, right? That's the hook. So they are hooked or addicted or, attracted to the uncertainty because it creates this familiar feeling in their body, that's what chemistry means, that's what attraction means. So when someone, we call them nice guys, but they're actually regulated guys, guys who are secure, guys who show up and do what they need to do. There is no intensity there. There is no drama there. There is no, does he like me? Does he not? Will he show up? Will he not? Because he will show up. He will tell you. He will be open and vulnerable with you, right?
I see what you're saying. So it goes back to that addiction that we spoke about then. Okay, now I'm starting to understand it a little bit more, because I never understood that, and I never really dissected it and broke it down like that. But I see what you're saying. So on the surface, that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they still want that thrill. It's like sort of like people that go and sell drugs in the street. It's that thrill of the fast life, or the women that they're really against guys in and out of jail, but it's something about that fast life that attracts them, so they will partake in that relationship. And then as soon as they get locked up, they call them every name in the book and say, they this and that. So I understand what you're saying now. So the nice guy give them all these things that they want, and it's no cat and mouse game. It's no, like you said, argument. It's no conflict. It's that man's the nice man or the nice guy is always looking to resolve a situation instead of creating a situation. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And that is, I guess, I don't want to say also that their desire to meet a nice guy isn't genuine. I truly believe that they do want that, and again, it's a conscious choice. That is my conscious want to be with someone like that. But this is a program we're talking about. This is a nervous system program that comes online unconsciously. So we cannot, judge these women. I mean, men do it too. But we cannot judge them in a way that, oh, you say one thing, but you want another. You're so contradictory and this and this and that, because both are true.
Right.
Yeah, that hypervigilance is something they learned early on in life. And it's something their nervous system is going to be attracted to, because they know that terrain they can navigate. And because they're also intelligent people, they know that a nice guy will be good for them, that they're going to provide for them, they're going to be love them and care for them the way that they need to, and that is also.
So what you're saying, they look at them more so as that safe haven, that safe space, that security, more so for the men that they are. That's their safe place. That's what you're saying. So.
I mean, we all look for safety in another. That's what we were talking about earlier, right? Right. It seems more probable that the guy, I'm not going to call them nice guys. I'm going to call them regulated guys, right?
Regulated guy, okay.
Regulated guys or secure guys. They have a more, it's more probable that you're going to feel safe in the company of this guy. And by safe, I don't mean also physically safe. I mean emotionally safe, right? This guy is going to take care of your heart. They're not going to, cheat on you or whatever. They're not going to treat you bad, whatever that is. So there is a desire for that, right? What woman doesn't want to feel safe that way? So consciously, yes, we want that. But again, body has different ideas, because the body is used to wanting that hit of the chasing, the hypervigilance, the decoding, the managing, the chasing for breadcrumbs, the scanning. Like, it's all so compelling, especially for nervous systems that learned very early in life that that's what they had to do in order to receive love, right? So growing up, if that's what they had to do to get attention from their dad or their mom or whoever was taking care of them, then that's what their body knows how to get love.
Got you.
So I'm going to chase the man who's showing that inconsistency, right?
I got you. Okay. So, here's a question for you. How can someone tell the difference between intuition and a triggered nervous system in dating or relationships?
A I love this question. So this is a very important question. I get this asked all the time. And this is where it becomes really practical, actually, because after painful or, you know, what it's a lot of people confuse the two. That's what I'm trying to say. Excuse me. So we confuse what is our intuition and what is actually a nervous system response. And I can understand why that a triggered nervous system can feel incredibly convincing. And I would say that if you're triggered, pay attention to the voice in your head. So if the voice in your head sounds urgent or like it's pressuring you, so it will say things like, I need to act now. I need to say something. I need to figure this out immediately, right? It's very convincing. And a lot of people say, oh, that's my intuition call. It's, you know, it's my intuition saying that I should do something. I should say something right now. And it also comes with a lot of mental activity, right? If you find yourself overthinking, analyzing, trying to piece things together, that means you are scanning for threat. And you can also pay attention to your body. What does your body feel like? That will tell you if it's intuition or nervous system. If your body feels contracted, tight, no agitated, like there's no room to move, that's a nervous system response. Yeah. But intuition is very, very different. So intuition is a bit more subtle and a lot quieter than a nervous system response. It feels like a clean knowing. You know, have you ever had that moments where you just know, there's this inner knowing, and it's like, it's not urgent, but it's like, yeah, I get this steady inner sense that this is my truth.
Right.
So it's less dramatic. Again, there's no drama in intuition. It's less urgent, and it doesn't bully you into taking action. Right?
Gotcha.
So it's this clean knowing, a steadier inner sense. I like to compare it to nature, like a tree. You know, a tree is a tree. It's just there. It's doing its thing, and it just knows. And it sometimes could be quite underwhelming compared to a nervous system response, right?
Right.
And that's why most people miss it. But this is where, again, the work comes in, is working that muscle of curiosity and listening to your body, because intuition is more of a, it's quieter. So if all the noise is there of your activated nervous system, you're not going to hear your intuition. And I think one of the reasons this gets so confused is that if you're a person that has lived in a state of activation for a very long time, you've been in either fight or flight or freeze, or these are states of nervous system dysregulation, then intensity for you can start to feel like the truth. And your system is speaking so loudly that you are not able to hear the quieter voices underneath. Yeah? So the work then begins is starting to differentiate your voices inside your head.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So this is a good one. It says, why smart, self-aware women still repeat the same relational dynamics? Why do you think that is?
I guess it's the same reason we were talking about that knowledge alone when we were talking about attachment styles. Knowledge alone doesn't really help us change anything. It just helps us understand things, but it really doesn't help us change our relational dynamics, right? So relationship is very different than any other areas of life because, as I said before, it's where it triggers us the most, right? So these women, again, this is the type of women I work with, right? Very self-aware, very high functioning, very intelligent. They can reflect, they can articulate, and they can understand themselves really deeply. And they're often very competent in everything else. They're competent in work, they run a family, they have good friendships. And then when it comes to love and relationships, something happens there. And, they feel really helpless at times.
Right.
So I think what's important to understand is self-awareness lives at one level, but relationship patterns often lives deeper in the body. And that's why I make the distinction between cognitive relating and somatic relating. They're very different. And that is why I see a lot of people stuck in the cognitive place. And that's where we then continue to repeat the patterns, because we haven't looked at what's going on in our bodies and our nervous systems, and what that's actually almost enforcing the pattern to repeat itself.
Okay. So what does a relational pattern actually look like in real life before someone has the language for it?
Okay. I'll need to think of an example here. Okay. This is where it gets really very real, because patterns don't usually announce themselves in big, obvious ways. Most patterns actually begin with very small internal shifts. And if you don't know how to track the body, you're going to miss them. So in real life, this often looks like, let's see, you're talking to someone that you like. Say you've just started dating with someone. You're in the first month or so. And then something small changes. Okay, maybe you notice that their tone of voice or the way they speak to you has slightly changed. Maybe they take longer to reply to a message. Maybe they're less present with you when you're in their company. And there is a moment right there and then when that happens, and it happens very fast, where your nervous system shifts. Now, I'm going to say something that most people are quite surprised about, but it's true. Your nervous system can time travel. And I talked about neurotoning earlier, right? It's the tone or the shape of your nervous system. Now, when we are triggered by something, like what I mentioned, maybe someone's not present with me, I get triggered, and suddenly my nervous system is back in, 1992. Because in 1992 is when the first time something happened, when my parent wasn't present with me, and I felt that pain. So the tone, the actual shape and tone of the nervous system changes at that moment in time when that happens, and that happens very fast. So your stomach might drop or your chest might tighten. And the body changes before your mind can fully understand why. Okay. Now, this is the beginning of the pattern, and this is what most people miss, because most people think that the pattern is actually the behavior. Okay, the behavior might be, maybe you shut down or you stop telling your story to this person because they're not listening. Or you go inward and you feel really, shit about yourself. Or, or maybe you might fight back and say, hey, why aren't you listening to me? Whatever it is, people think that's the pattern. But the pattern happened way before any behavior starts to come online. Okay? So I think this is what I really wanted to, make clear, that it's all about noticing the reactions in your body before the behavior and practicing that pause, because that's when you can start to find where the patterns happen. So I always say pattern starts before the behavior. So it's not the 10 messages you send or the argument that you make. It begins the moment that your body shifts or time travels, and your attention then is not on yourself anymore, it's on the person, right? You almost leave yourself and you're focused on what that person is doing or not doing. And if you can catch it, if you can catch the moment before that happens, before you leave yourself, then everything changes. That's when you can start changing patterns.
Okay.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. It was good. It's good. Like I said, you're well versed and knowledgeable. I feel like you're a great speaker. So yeah, it's good. Um, Carl, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
What should someone do in the moment they feel triggered with a partner rather than after the damage was already done?
Hmm. This is such a practical question. I love these questions because this helps listeners to go, oh, there's something I can do after this. There's actually something I can try. So it's probably one of the most important moments because this is where change actually happens, right? So once the pattern has fully taken over, so once you've sent that text or had that blow up or shut down, whatever it is, then it's really harder to work with, right? You're actually doing damage control at that point. You're not changing a pattern, you're controlling what the damage was.
Right.
So the first thing I always say, this is the sacred word that I say a million times a day, is pause. And it's a simple word and it's a simple act, but it's it can be challenging to do. But that's what I encourage people to do. So it's pausing or noticing. I'll give you an example. So something happened and I feel the jolt of it, right? And instead of acting, I stop, I pause, I notice, and I say something in me just got activated. Right? Just that tiny moment of recognizing I'm activated, that's where it matters because that's awareness. Because now you're not completely fused with that behavior, wanting to do something. This is now coming back into the body. So I would ask questions. I mean, this is a process I do all the time, right? It's not, I don't just teach this, I live this. So I get activated. I'm like, okay, what am I actually feeling right now? And I name it. I feel a tightness in my throat. I feel my heart beating fast. I feel my stomach drop. What impulse do I have? What do I want to do now? I want to throw the phone at his face or whatever it is. Like, what do I want to do? And notice. That's the impulse. Right. Now, if you skip this step, if you skip the noticing and the pausing, you're going to go straight to behavior and you're going to throw that phone in his face. And then there's going to be repercussions, right? And then the damage control. So this is really one simple thing you can do is pause and notice. Because your nervous system is in survival at that point. And when your nervous system is in survival, your body is fully preoccupied to restore safety and has absolutely no interest to restore intimacy.
Right.
So there's not going to be connection between your partner. Your only focus at that point, how do I get safe again? How do I get safe again? So communication in that moment is not going to be about connection. It's going to be about how do I reduce the threat? And maybe throwing the phone is how I reduce the threat. So this is what I mean. Can we pause? Can we notice? Can we name what we feel? And maybe then you can actually express a need that you have. I mean, this goes a bit further. It takes practice, but you can actually say, I need a moment now.
Right. So it's a couple. Oh, I was going to say, there's a couple words that you mentioned there. I just wanted to touch on, right? So you said pause, right? So everything has to start with it. You have to take that moment to pause, right? To gather yourself. And I think that's where, the whole active listening part comes from in relationships. It's because once you pause, you allow them to speak, but then you wait your turn. And I think that at that moment, when it's your turn to speak, that's when you state the obvious or you state what triggered you, and then you work from there. So a lot of people, they just jump right into the fire. They know they got triggered. Now they want to try to defend themselves to find that safety that you were speaking about. So you have to pause, like you said, listen, right? Because when you cut people off, now you're just creating more conflict. You're adding fuel to the fire. So listen. Once you have a moment like, listen, this bothered me, this triggered me, and then you just work from there. Because at the end of the day, if that person is not going to be receptive to that, then that's not a person that should be in your circle anyways. right? And that's how you effectively communicate in a healthy way. It's active listening, being able to pause, right, to ground yourself, and that's how it is. It's a ping pong thing, right? It's not a race, it's a marathon.
No.
So that's what I wanted to add to that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, this is so subtle, but so huge, so important, because the
Right.
moment you pause is the moment the pattern starts to change. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. Pause is magic,
Right.
and it doesn't need to be anything, huge either. It's not like, oh, pause, I need to stop. It's just simply even a few seconds of taking a breath or putting the phone down or just, coming into yourself. It can be literally a few seconds. So yeah, what you said was good.
Right. So I do want to bring it to a close, but what I would like to do is, because there's a few points that I would like to still touch on, such as the hidden cost of being the strong one in a relationship. I think that'd be a good touching point. How hyper independence can quietly sabotage intimacy. While people stay in relationships that feel confusing or inconsistent. And I would also like to touch on how women can rebuild trust within themselves after a painful relationship. So, if you're up for it, I would like to have like a part two, a continuation at a later date. Um, but it's been an honor and a privilege to have you on today. Well versed, and you're a good speaker. So anything else you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, I think if there's one thing I'd want people to take from this is that there's nothing wrong with you for having these patterns. These
Right.
patterns are very intelligent and they served you at one point, right? They helped you to stay connected, to stay safe, and to stay loved in the best way that your system knew how. So I encourage you that the work isn't to get rid of them or to judge them anyway, but it's to start meeting yourself inside those moments differently, like we did with the pause. So it's to understand what your system is doing, to recognize when behaviors start to take over, and to see the more vulnerable parts underneath all that and stay with yourself. And because that's where change actually happens. So it's not in theory, but it's in the moment that you come back to your body and you stay.
Well received. Well received. I meant to ask you before. Do you have your own podcast, or you?
I don't yet. I would love to. I wish I
Okay.
had a team of people because I'm only a one-man band or one-woman band, and I'd love to have help because I would love
Right.
to have my own podcast one day. Yeah.
See, that's we in the world of technology and social media. So trying to find a team, that's a strong source or reference point as far as finding that network and that community.
Mm.
I mean, I've networked a lot and found a lot of community in doing this podcast thing, because I like to
Mhm.
tell people, most people that come on as a guest become like family to me, because they still keep in touch. Like 2 years ago, I got people that stay in touch with me, send me a text here and there, right? It don't have to be every day, but it's meaningful and impactful to me, because this is 2 years ago. We didn't even know each other. We did a podcast, and then they keep in touch. Hey, how you doing? Blah blah blah. Whenever you come to my state, I got you. I'll show you around. So I appreciate that, and that lets me know that I'm doing something good or doing
Mm.
something right, and it brings comfort to me. Like, I take solace in knowing that people enjoy hearing me speak. I take solace in the fact that, like, I touched many lives, and then that I brought value to their lives. So I enjoy all my guests that come on, and all guests are welcome. As you can see, I talk about any and everything that brings good conversation or good content. So here we are. So, yeah, that's going to conclude today's episode, though. I hope everybody was inspired. They got something from this. I hope you gain a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of knowledge from Nathalie, because she is well educated. Continue to like, share, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and continue to support me. And I appreciate everybody. So, without further ado, I'm gonna let everybody enjoy the rest of their day. What time is it? Where you at right now, Nathalie?
It's 4:15 in the afternoon.
Okay, see, it's 12:15 here, so it's a little difference. But all right, I'm gonna let you enjoy the rest of your day, and like I said, we can reconvene at a later time and have a continuation.
Yeah.
Again, it's been an honor and a privilege. It is still the month of March, so it's Women's History Month. So I want to give you your flowers and give you your praise and your thanks for everything that you do and everything that you contribute to the world and society as a woman.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Desmond. And
Uh,
I will be back for sure.
I appreciate it. All right. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.